Divisional finals, solo finals, new winners, and a returning king. There's so much to talk about for this weekend's action. Let's get right into the mix. As we get into the duo finals, the very last one for this season, before the Sim season starts and the mini season is underway, which I'm sure will have its own competitive offerings, there was this one last try I had to make. Division 2, I made it from Division 3 to Division 2. I was 24 points off of Division 1. We almost made it, but enough about me. Central was a movie. You had new teams, Peterbot and Josh, Pollo and Skittles, both of them making finals and actually contesting each other off of Spawn. You guys look at it as kind of a for fun season. What's going wrong with Peterbot? Well, he's trying to sit back, relax, and enjoy Fortnite while he can before FNCS rolls around. Same could be said for Pollo, and they played about 4 games actually contesting each other off of Spawn. Peterbot Josh did have some issues getting into some of those games, but to me, it goes to show that no matter how well of friends these guys actually are, teammates even for FNCS, when it rolls around, they're willing to kind of put their own money where their mouth is, contesting each other off of Spawn. Neither team actually performing well on the leaderboards, though. They went ahead and placed all the way down that leaderboard. Peterbot in 16th place, and I believe Pollo just a little bit worse than that overall, but it just goes to show that sometimes when you're contested, even when you're the best, it just does not work out for you. Let's go ahead and look at Clicks and Higgs, who placed 2nd place overall and actually had a chance to win it all. 305 points, only 9 points off. It goes to show how close it actually was. They did end up actually getting a win as well. So people have talked about maybe Higgs going on and playing with Rapid. Even with Rapid and Threads still performing well inside of the top 10, they get 9th overall. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I've also seen stranger things happen overall. Ark and Kanata continue their consistency. I do like Ark coming over from NA West. This is all without actually being on 0 ping as well. So it goes to show that their chemistry is really starting to flow. It's really starting to work. They're one of the few teams I feel like they've been taking it serious week after week after week, and I'm excited to see how they continue to perform when FNCS rolls around, and I honestly hope they stick together because, you know, with this video, we got some changes coming on later. But first place, Evan and Dozier. They actually clutched up in that last game. They got the win, 4 eliminations, and if they don't get the win, you minus 9 points. Higgs gets a little bit more points, and Higgs ends up actually winning. So it just goes to show how close it actually is. And for Evan Dozier, that's a huge accomplishment. That's a huge goal, showing that you can compete with the best and you can come out on top. Even though some rosters are still shuffling throughout that top 10 leaderboard and even below, it just goes to show that these guys that are hungry for it, Dozier just playing phenomenally week after week after week, is finally get his chance to shine. In 4th place, Agers and Iamzo. And I talked about teams splitting up, even with their 4th place finish, even with how consistent they have been throughout the divisional cups. They're splitting up. Both Agers and Iamzo say they're looking for duos. I don't know if this is for sure, because even in eval finals where it's a win and you get the money, you look at their placements, 2nd places, 3rd places, 4th place. That's enough to be at the top of the leaderboard. So in my head, I'm wondering why these guys are breaking up, but maybe it's just a break for the Simpson season. Maybe these guys will reunite because there's not a lot of offers going around. There's not a lot of teammates they can go ahead and switch to. So maybe teams, you know, some others as well, are just kind of filling each other out, seeing what teams' attitudes are, seeing what playing with them like is for money, and just kind of see what can happen when you throw things together. Ritual and Cold, another team that remains consistent week after week. They get 5th place overall, 272, actually tying with Agers and Iamzo, but losing out due to elimination. They had the better average placement, but they had less overall eliminations. A half elimination average short. That's what lost him out on that top 5, or I should say top 4. Then you had Lawrence and Batman Joe, Jargo and King, Taki and Vert, Rapid and Threads, which I spoke about, and Noisy and Tony. You still had Cooper, Sphinx, Muzz, and Reet round out 11th and 12th place, but it just goes to show, like, even though some teams are taking this lackadaisy, other teams are taking it super serious. I'm excited to see how NA West continues throughout the Simpson season and beyond, which teams kind of form up, even if it's just for a moment. Maybe we have some dream teams coming together. Maybe we have the Clicks and Peterbot finally playing together. Who knows? I'm excited to see what happens, though, but that's for Central. On to NA West, where I didn't mention much about Acorn and Bolts when it comes to Central. There's a reason for that. They actually left Central early to play out the entirety of NA West. Things weren't going their way on Central, even though they did have one really good performing game. They decided to play it out, and for good reason. NA West, once again, taken over by Acorn and Bolts. First place. Another almost 50-point lead. I believe it was like 44 overall against Luis and Cestro. Inactive Minute also showing up to round out our top three. And to me, it just goes to show that NA West is still open for the taking. There's not been one team that's been consistently taking first place overall. For one moment, we did have B-Dog and Phoenix, but in this tournament, they ended up top 6. I'll still be looking at them as one of the most consistent teams in the region, but they have still yet to take that first place spot. I'm waiting for it to happen. I believe it's just around the corner, maybe in the Simpsons season, but they still fall short this week around. Scissor and Velo are going to get 5th. Koss and Fuzz are going to get 7th. Ark and Larkos, Vanilla and Haju in 9th. School and Sauko in 10th. Still performing decently well as a duo without Ark. A lot of people said Ark make them in that trio, but they're still going to show like, hey, they competed, they've gotten top 3s, they've almost been in the conversation for winning, and now they get, I believe, one of their worst placements of the season. But again, it's winding down the season. This was the last Divisional Cup. Some teams caring, other teams not so much. It's more about building the chemistry and just kind of playing competitive Fortnite for some of these guys. You got Monk and Evolved. Victor V playing with Ark this time around. Again, 12th place finish. Not necessarily what they'd hope, but again, I don't think either one of these guys are like a pure IGL, so they're really lacking that IGL, the smarts, the awareness to kind of lead them through the game. You know, Ark has Kanata, Victor V had Paper of the past. This time around, you bring the two fraggers together and just really only getting a 12th place finish, which is impressive in its own mind at the same time because they only played out 3 games. They got a 3rd, they got a 2nd, they got a 12th. They got 5 eliminations in their 3rd place, 10 eliminations in their 2nd place, 3rd in their 17th, because they did outplay out Central, so they did have some time to make up. And like I said, pretty impressive without there being an IGL. 12th place overall. Pure and KJ, Vorks and Dark. This, to me, I think might be one of their worst performances overall of the season as well. Multiple weeks I've talked about they've been in contention of winning and kind of slowly fizzling out as the day went on. This time around, they just weren't able to get inside of the top 5. Their best game coming inside of a top 6. There were some issues in both duo finals and solo finals, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But when it comes to NA West, this is your top teams. NA Central Solos was a bit of a movie that has a slow start. You know what I'm saying? With the new surge changes, both for the divisional finals and the solo finals, a lot of pros were just simply not happy. For solos, rightfully so. This was one of the kind of confusing, and not even confusing, just weird things to watch. Teams getting surge or players getting surge in solos and just boxing up. No matter where the zone is, boxing up. Sometimes later on in the tournament, you see a lot of them go toward the center of the zone, but it just goes to show the overall surge changes, overall damage, minus damage taken, is your overall surge, just does not work out. Sometimes you could be doing nothing, sitting in a box, and you could fall below storm surge because somebody else just gets a better damage ratio. And the same thing, you could be below storm surge, and then you end up okay above the threshold because the guy above you has to make a rotation. He gets tagged up, and that's a bad ratio. For solos, I think this is probably one of the worst things to happen to the game mode overall, and you can kind of see what some of the performances, the teams you would expect to do well, didn't necessarily perform well. And I know I'm saying teams and it's solos, but when it came to Central, again, the returning champion is here, Peterbot, but it did not come easy. You had Bolts, you had Higgs, they were in the conversation every step of the way, even Threats, which was our top 4 teams, and it was Peterbot in game 6. Just when you thought he would go down early, give team a chance to win it all, he somehow is in a shambles situation, ends up getting elimination, doesn't really get a lot of mats, but still ends up rotating to where he gets the water that heals him. He gets another refresh, and then now he's stacked all of a sudden, and the hope for everybody in the lobby has been drained out. Higgs performed exceptionally well, and throughout the tournament, he had a 1st place, couple of 5th places, overall 10 eliminations. He got 2nd place. Bolts In third place, this was a little bit of a heartbreaker for me. Both Higgs and Bolts, the NA West boys, so they got a special place in my heart. Bolts ended up getting second place in that final game, but if he wins that game, he steals away second place in the overall leaderboard and earns about $2,000 extra dollars, sending Higgs to third place on the leaderboard. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to close out. Liam actually ended up winning that last game, taking that money away from him. Like I said, Threats though in fourth place, Creon in fifth, Clicks with a solo performance that honestly I didn't necessarily expect to round out 6 on the leaderboard. Rapid in 7th, Virgo in 8th, you had Chance in 9th, and then Salt, I believe an NA West player, in the top 10 for Central Solo Finals. Poyo's going to be in 11th, even Epic Well in 12th, which he was just a few points away, doing good, and a couple of more games would have got him a top 10 spot overall on the leaderboard. And, you know, there was a couple, I guess, sad performances throughout it all, you know, where you think they would perform well. Kanada, Bugswater, not necessarily the tournament he want. His best game was going to be a top 6 performance. Continuing to look down the leaderboard, Agers, triple contested with Poppy Blast and Ritual at Dreamy for most of the tournament. Poppy Blast ended up leaving and going and played West, but he ended up dying a couple of those games off spawn, not necessarily able to use the games he made off spawn to perform well. His top placing throughout the tournament was 15th, so he was going to end up 41st on the overall leaderboard. And as you continue to look down, it's kind of hard to see because you signed Muzz. You find Muzz, I should say, in 78th place. He landed all the way north on the map, which would have been an okay spot if you had the other Surge. But since you have the new Surge, where position and rotating and everything actually matters, all the way on the north with the zones pulling south, it makes it so hard to get into some of these zones. He was just below the damage threshold, not even landing at a good spot for a loot to start with, so it's just not the best tournament for Muzz, and some people were looking at him to take the overall tournament, so better luck next time, I should say. But at the same time, it just kind of sucks with these changes coming through, being looked at as one of the best players in the format and not performing well at all. But congratulations to Peterbot, Higgs, and Bolts for rounding out our top 3 in the solo series, taking home a huge chunk of that money. Quickly skimming through West, there was a bit of an issue. There was a couple of good aimers out there throughout the lobby, and a couple were kind of sprinkled around. We were watching it all, and well, even though I'm not going to confirm anything at all, I also, with the gameplay, can't deny it either. First place was one of those players, a fresh account. It's Peter Crot 2B, but it's with a K. It's a whole different player than the Peter Crot you're probably used to seeing on West. I'm not sure how this one was able to slip through, but if you actually go through, watch some of the replays, watch some of the games, formulate your own opinions, well, we'll just have to wait and see what Epic does about it. So in my head, though, Arc winning first place in the NA West solo series, 250 points. Z-Link in second on 238. Both of these guys still actually having a chance to win actual first place going down to the very last game, but unfortunately, they both kind of got shut down just a little bit early. 34th place. Z-Link did manage a 4th place, but it was just too much of a deficit to overcome. I believe he managed somewhere inside of the top 10 to 3rd place, which is good for Z-Link, especially considering his own situations that he went through in solos. Then you got Vorks and Salco for 4th and 5th place. Salco, again, kind of being, you know, that player that played with Arc and School. You're saying, oh, you got carried in trios. Well, again, with his duo performances and now his solo performances, Salco has to be one of the players you look at on this region that can bring a lot to a team and that can contend for a championship in FNCS on West. And then you got Dom in 6th throughout the games. He was actually performing decently well, but also just inconsistent overall. He did pull off a win. We did watch that one on the stream. It was pretty exciting to watch, knowing Dom. He's been in my chat a little bit, so I'd like to support the NA West boys, especially the ones that show up in the stream, and support myself as well. Hyson was one of the biggest surprises. He played all 6 games out, but in 3 of his games, he got 0 points. So he essentially got 7th place in solos while only playing 3 games out. He was somebody that a lot of people in my chat had always talked to me to watch him in trios, kind of put on his stream in duos. Now I actually got to watch him firsthand in solos, and I think he deserves a little bit of the hype. I want to see if he can continue this performance into the actual game modes in 2026, but I mean, he's at least on my radar now. Zywoo, Blink, and Xenon going to round out our top 10. Minute, 10 points shy of that top 10 spot, but overall, I think solos with this Surge was not it. I would like to maybe see it with new Surge, or maybe bring the Victory Cups back. I like the overall idea of the solo series format with weeks coming together to kind of have a final at the end. Maybe it could work for duos. Maybe we can go try it again for solos. Maybe it's maybe less weeks instead of 6 with 4 counting. Maybe it's 3 with 2 counting, something like that, and you play out the finals in the last week of the month. Who knows? But for NA West, you know, you got to give credit to Arc, Z-Link, and Vorks for now. That's going to round out our top players on the solo series leaderboard for West. So with the new season coming around, that's it for tournaments, especially for the actual FNCS ones. There's going to be a lot of third-party stuff coming around. I know there's the E-Razor $100,000 event. I know there's a Havoc event. I know Manu with Vital was hosting an event. Elite Esports is also going to be host community-style events. Nothing major with a massive prize pool, but just to get people together to host some community events. So make sure you guys check those out. But as we go into the mini season for Simpsons, expect a lot of teams to switch up. Maybe some one-week wonders. Maybe people trying out players they maybe thought about in the past. So as I look at Fortnite's comp report, kind of ending of our top players of ranking for the season, I agree with most of them for the most part. Maybe 1 or 2 switches, but my reasons might be different than his. So at the same time, I can't necessarily disagree, which is why I'm showing his leaderboard here. I don't necessarily think anybody's really going to be taking it super serious, but I will be talking about the tournaments that go on during the Simpsons season, ranking my own teams as we talk about them and as we talk about the results. So make sure you guys let me know in the chat, who do you guys think is the team to beat right now at the end of the chapter? Who performed the overall best? And who do you think is going to be the #1 team going into FNCS? There's a lot of roster changes coming down. Let me know what you guys want to see tournament-wise as well. But I'll see you guys on the next video because I'm going to keep them coming as long as you guys are watching. Keep yourself safe, and I'll see you guys on that battle bus. Beep, beep!